An absolutely incredible sitting of Parliament this afternoon, but in many ways then bringing to an end the process of the Section 89 committee following its findings, its recommendations to Parliament that tonight have been rejected. So that means that there will be no further action, at least in terms of the formation of a committee that will look into this matter deeper. Of course, interesting that MPs were at pains to remind each other, particularly opposition MPs, at pains to remind ANC MPs that today was not about whether or not the president was guilty. It wasn't a vote of guilt, but rather that Parliament should exercise its executive duties and hold the president accountable. The overwhelming majority of MPs, at least 214 of them, are saying no, 148 of them saying yes, and that would have included 5 ANC MPs officially. But of course, we're hearing now that Thandi Mahambe-Hlala mistakenly voted yes when she intended to vote no, but it's recorded as 148 yeses and abstentions being 2, and those were Patricia DeLille and Brett Heron of the Good Party. In studio with me, politics editor Lukhanyo Calata, to unpack what has unfolded here. So I guess, Lukhanyo, when we look at what has happened, no surprises when it comes to the voting. In the last 2 weeks, if we can go back, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma has been very clear about where she stands on this issue. She has also been the most vocal, we understand, in that NEC meeting that was held last week that ultimately took the decision on the party line that would be followed today.
And today, breaking ranks, quite dramatic, if we could put it like that. And I suppose, setting then the tone for the others who may have wanted to see, for instance, what the seniors are going to do. So when she then said yes, I suppose, it cleared the way for someone like Mervyn Dirks, someone like Suprama Umapilo, Mosebenzi Zwane, for them to then also have the courage to say, okay, well, I vote yes. And I suppose, those are the individuals that we would call usual suspects, who all voted against, the adoption of this report. Interestingly, Kathy, what Gwede Mantashe said about those 5 members will now be reported to the ANC, and that, there will be processes that the ANC will take against them. It would be interesting to note what those processes are, but I would imagine that there will be some form of disciplinary measures taken against Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma and the others that voted yes, and in essence, opposed the ANC in favor of working with opposition parties.
Siviwe Kwagube, I think, encapsulating really well some of the debate around today's vote, especially in as far as it concerns the ANC, and that, it's not a vote about factions within the party. And yet, when we look at how the voting pattern has gone, those that have voted yes have, of course, been associated with a particular faction within the organization. And there's no avoiding that conversation, is there?
No, there isn't avoiding, that conversation, Kathy. Yes, they are linked to the so-called RET faction that is linked to, the suspended Secretary General Ace Magashule, that then goes back to someone like former President Jacob Zuma. So yes, they are linked to that faction. But is it really a faction, or is it really a matter of, faction, or is it a matter of discipline? The ANC today is the only party that saw members break rank with a director from the party. All of the other parties, all of them, bar none, had their members disciplined and towed the party directive or party line. They voted along the party directive. The ANC is the only one. And you have these 5 members that we are now talking about who, I would say, acted in a manner politically that was ill-disciplined, because no matter what it is that they thought of, this whole matter, once a party says this is how you vote because they're not there on their own on their own accounts. They are there on ANC seats.
And it brings us to the age-old debate, right? And this is part of why the Nkandla matter ended up in the Constitutional Court in the first place. The extent to which, when they assume their positions in Parliament, members of Parliament are there to look out for the interests of the country or to toe the party line. And the Constitutional Court was very clear in its ruling that once MPs are sitting and conducting the business of South Africans, it is the interest of the country that they must put first and not the interest of the party. But, of course, what today tells us is that the system that we have simply does not make enough room or make it easily enough possible for MPs to do that.
And this was where I was going to go in response to what you were saying, Kathy. Therefore, we now need to have this new electoral amendment bill. We need to have that enacted, because that would allow for ordinary South Africans like you and I to be able to contest, in our personal capacity, should we wish, for a seat in Parliament. Once I am then in Parliament, I therefore can make the best decision for the country. Right now, those MPs are there on behalf of the ANC. They're not there on their own accord. It's the ANC seat. The ANC then decides, okay, in this seat we will put Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. This seat we will put Ulindiwe Sisulu. This seat we will put Osupra Umapelo. So therefore, when the ANC then says this is how you vote, that is how they must vote, whether or not we like it or not. But look at all of the other parties. Gwede Mantashe also made a point to say that all of the other opposition parties, they also have got their issues. It's just that obviously the ANC as the governing party, there's more focus on what happens within the internal dynamics of the ANC. But the DA today was able to maintain discipline. The EFF today was able to maintain discipline. Does that mean that they will be able to do that next month or next year?
It doesn't change the fact that when looking upon this moment, there will be those who feel that we have a very hypocritical position when it comes to matters of accountability. That, and again, we can go back to Nkandla. The vote around Nkandla was seen as a vote around conscience and a vote about what's in the interest of this country. And in fact, Gwede Mantashe, as you're saying, highlighting the number of MPs that at the time, 37 of them in the ANC, voted against the party line. This moment has been very much described as being similar to that. Yes, not on the merits of the case, but certainly at its essence, it's about a president of the country accused of allegations of wrongdoing, and now still needs an opportunity to effectively clear his name. And to date, there has been no such process.
Kathy, remember that the ANC has got this us and them mentality, right? So when, and it refers to it as the balance of forces. I don't know why, but that's why it does. So when the ANC feels under attack, or would see something like Phala Phala and the opposition parties, the ANC would see that as an attack, right? So how do you defend yourself? You close ranks, right? And no matter what happens, is that those parties are not going to be the ones that are going to lead to the demise or to the removal of the president from office. If the president is to be removed, it has to be the African National Congress. that sees itself with the responsibility of removing the president, as they had done with former President Jacob Zuma, former President Thabo Mbeki as well. So the ANC will do what it needs to protect itself from attacks from outside. And in this instance, the ANC's president was under attack from opposition parties. So the ANC's responsibility in this regard is to defend its president. They will deal with the president ultimately in whichever way that the ANC will deal with him, but it must be, or they see it as it must be the ANC that deals with them and not anyone else.
Of course, if we go into the track record of a party, there are very interesting examples that we can use. You know, even somebody like Bantu Holomisa, as a whistleblower, somebody who stood up against corruption, would later be vindicated by history, was treated very badly within the organization when he tried to raise those concerns. But I want us to go back to this clip of Julius Malema last week. He was addressing he was giving a briefing for the EFF, and he spoke particularly towards this moment, and this was before the sitting was postponed, but he was speaking mainly around the decision to have an open vote. And this was last week, Monday. Let's listen to what he had to say.
As the EFF, we are very happy that the secret ballot is not provided. Nkosazana spoke on TV and said Cyril must go. Lindiwe Sisulu spoke on TV and said Cyril must go. Supra spoke and said Cyril must go. Tomorrow, let them go and raise their hands. They must not become peacetime heroes. They were talking on TV. Let the real truth prevail tomorrow. Let's see if they meant what they were saying on TV. Secret ballot for what? If they are for the Constitution, if they are for the rule of law, and they are not for the men, let tomorrow South Africa see who is on the side of the Constitution and who is on the side of an individual. We are happy with the decision of the Speaker not to grant the secret ballot.
Of course, that was just about a week ago, Lukhanyo. A week is a long time in politics. Things change. Today, Julius Malema is saying, well, we are not happy that this was an open vote. It needed to be held in secret. What has changed between then and now?
So much so that he's actually going to go to court to go and challenge the process, that the Speaker of the National Assembly, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, took to have today's debate and vote. Kathy, it's hard for me to try and make sense, I think, of Julius Malema. And we've known this, that, one day he says this and the next he says this. And I think what we heard him say today is just an example of him basically flip-flopping from one end of the spectrum to the other.
I think it's also worth remembering that the fact that the vote was an open vote came as a result of an appeal from members of the opposition benches. They're the ones that asked the Speaker to have this vote held in the open.
No. ATM, remember ATM said no, they wanted this ballot held in secret because they thought it would allow other members of the African National Congress to be able to vote with them. And then the ANC then said, no, but why hold it in secret?
Okay.
Because there is no.
I will retreat on that.
Yeah, there's no reason. There's no reason for this vote to be held in secret, And then at the beginning of today's session, the opposition parties, including the EFF, were trying to argue about, there having been death threats, and therefore if people kind of come vote out publicly, there might be threats to their lives. Unfortunately, the Speaker did not agree and said that the vote must be held in public, and that's what we saw play out today.
What happens now?
In which regard, ma'am?
In terms of this matter before Parliament?
Ultimately, this is the end of it, because the report was sanctioned by the Speaker of the National Assembly. she appointed the Section 89 panel. The panel did what they did. They then made recommendations, put together their report, and handed it over to the Speaker. The Speaker put it before the National Assembly. MPs had the opportunity to debate it and vote on it. The ANC used its majority to reject the report, which means that as far as the National Assembly is concerned, this report is now dead in the water. Parties are saying they're going to go to court, but the court, there's nothing that the court can do because the parliamentary process, followed its rules and its regulations, and the Speaker followed those by the book. So no court is going to come and tell the National Assembly that, no, you need to go and re-vote, you need to go and have that debate again, because that would be an overreach by the courts and telling another arm of the state or of the executive basically what to do, and no court is going to interfere with the independent machinations or mechanisms of Parliament.
We, of course, can't conclude this conversation without talking about those that were conspicuous in their absence in Parliament.
Yes.
Lindiwe Sisulu, Bongani Bongo, Zweli Mkhize.
Well, I thought I saw Lindiwe Sisulu there.
She wasn't there when the voting was taking place.
Yes,
so she wasn't there when it mattered most.
Yeah, but she was like and this is what I'm getting to, is like she was there. I think I saw her when the debate was going on, but then obviously she decided that it was better to be absent. I'm not sure if cowardly is the word to use from a journalist perspective, but it is rather conspicuous that when voting came, she was missing in action. Bongani Bongo, I don't think I saw him there. I know Zweli Mkhize, Dr. Zweli Mkhize is in Cape Town. Zianda, our colleague, had been trying to, set up an interview with him, but then he told her, no, well, he's in Cape Town. So it's interesting that he was in Cape Town.
I'm sure he just had other things to do.
Yeah. Kathy. More important than actually voting.
Well, clearly, they must have been. All right, I'm losing Lukhanyo Calata here. Lukhanyo, let's leave it there for tonight.